Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Connecting in the Virtual Classroom. My name is Rusty May. I am a school counselor by trade. I've been doing distance learning in the areas of SEL and online counseling for the last 17 years. And we created this show really to get you, give you an opportunity as educators to join in the conversation. I know there's a lot of folks out there right now who are doing a lot of online classes and so forth, but our goal here at the Connected Classroom is really to listen to you and to talk to you about what's going on out there and find out how the first month, we're almost to the end of September, if you can believe it. For a lot of us, that means the first month or so is about over, and just checking in to see where you're at. We also wanted to talk a little bit today about some cool online ideas to help us deal with navigating teaching in the virtual classroom as well. So thank you for being here. For those of you that join us live, as well as those who are going to be watching the recording or listening to the podcast later. And we'd like to start the show by inviting all of you to introduce yourselves and to find out what's going on where you are. So we'll start out with our good friend Teddy, see if he's there. Hey, Teddy.
Hey, Rusty. Good day, everyone.
How are things?
Things are getting better. New York City reopened their schools this past Monday. Unfortunately, are seeing a steady spike in cases. Where I'm at SUNY Geneseo in upstate New York, things are relatively not normal, but getting better for the most part. We haven't gotten tested yet, but the students are getting randomized testing, so that's a good sign.
And you think the students, you were concerned about whether or not the students were going to, be acting responsibly. Are you seeing that?
No, I think at this point there are students who are trying to enjoy their college life and be interactive, be social, but at this point, really just is up to them. If you're gonna go out, just wear your face mask, social distance, have hand sanitizer, and if you don't follow that, you would hope that at some point someone would let them know that that's not a good idea, or if there should be a spike of cases that the contact tracers can target who was behind the potential spread of the virus.
Do you have any of the contact apps that are being used widely there? I know here in Portugal, there's a COVID-19 app that they're encouraging people to download. It's anonymous, but it gives you an idea of whether or not you come in contact with somebody who's identified as having the virus.
I'm not aware of any apps that the university is using. I am aware of the randomized testing where they select a pool of students and have them tested. But um, one thing that we have done that we started since the beginning of the summer is the questionnaire where they ask staff, faculty, and students, have you been in contact with anybody? Have you been out of any of the travel advisory states that have high infection rates? So I guess that's sort of a way to sort of gauge and see who's been in contact with who, and then from there, should you answer yes to one of those questions, they will likely, reply back and try to get you tested or have you quarantined if you show any symptoms.
Are you guys doing all of your stuff right now live? Are you doing face-to-face meetings at this point, or what?
It's a hybrid style. So some classes are being held on campus and other classes are being held through Zoom online. So it really depends on what class you're taking. The students that I'm working with, most of them are on campus because they have a class. Others are strictly have all the classes online, but their work at the library this fall.
Okay. Thanks, Teddy.
No problem.
Jill LaFave, is that the Jill LaFave that's from one of my schools that watches my show? Jill, you want to jump in and introduce yourself?
Hi there, Rusty. It is Jill that I watch your show from Oregon. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are things in Oregon? It's been pretty crazy.
It has been pretty crazy. We were finally able to start school on Monday after a long-waited break with the fires here. So there was lots of anticipation to get started. Things are much better. We were able to see the sky on Saturday after almost 2 weeks. So it was
Wow.
definitely a breath of fresh air.
No pun intended.
Right?
Are you meeting face to face with your kiddos, or are you doing it virtually?
We are virtually. Yeah, we're 100% virtual. So that brings on its own challenges. So today is day 3 for me. Wish me luck.
How's it going so far? Did you do it in the spring last year?
We did. We did the distance learning in the spring. Our focus was more on social emotional and staying connected with our class. We pushed out asynchronous lessons that would just support materials and content that we had already covered. So this time around, it's school, it's real school, where we have adopted 3 new curriculums. We're using all new materials, new platforms. It's just a little crazy.
How much time are the kids expected to be online every day?
So the way our district has rolled it out is that we are at the elementary level, we have 4 cohorts. So we have split our classes into 4 different groups. And as a teacher, I am online 4 times for about 45 minutes with each group. And so we start at 8:30 and we just roll all the way until, let's see, 11:30. And then we take a short break and then we finish up in the afternoon. So we have like between 5 and 6 kids at my grade level in a cohort. So we're able to do a small group. And it's moving slowly, but we're getting there.
So you're online basically all day and the kids are online for 3 hours, is that right?
No, I'm online all day. The kids are only online 45 minutes
Okay.
live with me. And then we push out asynchronous lessons for them. So the curriculum that the district has decided to go with has a pretty good online platform, asynchronous lessons that we can push out to them that they can do.
And are you focusing mostly still on the social emotional? How is the relationship development piece going?
We're not just focusing on the social emotional piece. This week, absolutely, we are taking our time to build our classroom community, get to know each other. And next week, we are going to start slowly with our new curriculum. So we're going to be dipping our toes into our reading platform, showing that to them, how that works, followed by our math and our science.
Is there any expectation around testing and grading this year? Do you have a sense of how that's going to go? Is it back to normal?
No, we have not heard about like the statewide testing at 2nd grade. We don't have to worry about that. The report cards and reporting grades have changed. We are going to do it more as a progress report than an official report card. Because the way that our state has mandated what considers you being present at school, because we do have to take attendance, is attending a live session or being on one of the online curriculum platforms, doing something asynchronous, making contact with the teacher, whether it's a student or parent. Those all are examples of them being noted as being present at school.
Now, how close are you guys to Portland? Because I'm getting questions from the students that I talk to online all the time about the protests and stuff that are going on. Are you guys anywhere close to that?
I am about 15 miles south of Portland. So we haven't been heavily involved, or we're kind of protected. We're kind of in our own little, I guess, suburban community. However, 2 of my sons go to school in Portland, so I usually get some updates from them. It sounds like that things are slowly getting less, I don't know.
Contentious?
Yeah, thank you. Contentious. It's still very early in the morning here. Things have lessened. Just the tension has seems to have diminished, especially with other things coming up like fires and things like that. Other things have become definitely much more at the forefront, and we're not seeing as many protests that continue day after day.
Well, I would think with this possible Supreme Court nomination going to the Senate in the next week or so, you could see an uptick in that pretty quickly.
Yeah, you can sense it. You can sense it just even with talking to my college students, that yeah, you can sense it that there's definitely a lot riding on this political season, this election season, and now this new seat. Yeah, that needs to be filled. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Portland definitely, they kind of do their own thing.
Well, I appreciate you being here today. I hope you'll join in our conversation as we go forward.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
appreciate being here too. I was glad I was able to jump on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. or Miss Sullivan, do you want to introduce yourself to the rest of the people who are with us today? I got a Jay Sullivan. Are you there?
Yes, I'm Jennifer Sullivan.
Hi.
I'm a school counselor in a 7-8 middle school in Connecticut. We started school 3 weeks ago with a hybrid learning model. And I may have to jump off the call because I have 2 learners at home and my Wi-Fi has not been fantastic. So I have a sixth grader and an 8th grader, and we are all working remotely today. So I apologize if I have to jump off. That's the reason.
No problem. How are things going with the kids that you're working with at school?
I mean, I think in general, kids are happy to be back at school. We have a number of students who are struggling already with remote learning tasks, completion of tasks, engagement, keeping cameras on. The expectation at our school is that kids follow their schedule and therefore they are actively engaged in synchronous learning, whereas in the springtime we did all asynchronous learning except for counselors, social workers, and psychologists did virtual counseling sessions with students. But teachers, due to our new contract, to try to help some of these kids who are really struggling, have to do 50% synchronous learning for each of the classes that they're teaching per day.
How long are the kids expected to be online? 3 hours, 4 hours?
They are expected to be online about, well, we start at 7:45 is homeroom, and they're done at 2:17 with a 1-hour lunch and recreational break and 2 15-minute math breaks.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite a lot. Well, thank you for all you're doing. If you stay on the call, please join in if you have any comments about what we're going to be talking about. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
How about Thurleen? Thurleen Anderson, would you like to say hello? No? Okay. James? James, are you there? Would you like to say hello? I saw you earlier. I don't know if you're doing something else. How about Mr. Norman? Norman Constantine, you want to say hello and then tell us where you're from?
Sure. Hello. I am from Bowie, Maryland. I have recently retired from school. I was on the job for 40 years. And I don't know if you're going to like me here today because the problem's not distance learning. The problem is school.
Yeah.
And when you take school, or I also have a master's degree in distance education. When you take school, or when you go online and just bring school and try to stuff it in to online learning, you get the same results. Kids hate school.
Right.
Kids hate online learning when you try to make it school. But we have an opportunity here to redesign learning. Anyway, you can continue now.
No, I appreciate you being here, and I think your points are very valid, and that's exactly what we talk about on this show, that we have an opportunity to really recreate the idea of learning, and I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll join the conversation as we go forward. James, I saw I unmuted you. Are you there? Do you want to say hello?
Right. Good morning to all of you. I'm Jose Luis Ames from Peru. I
Welcome.
am an academic coordinator at Centro Cultural Peruano Norteamericano, which is BNC, as the embassy from the United States call us. And now we belong to the American space, another name that the embassy has given to all the binational centers here in South America. It is a nice opportunity for me to be around educators that can give us a lot of lights, a lot of information about how this new normality is going to be with us for probably the months to come or the years to come. I do have the same experience as the people who have been talking before in terms of how hard it is for us teachers, English teachers, because I am an English teacher here in Arequipa, Peru, how hard it is for us to struggle on a daily basis with students who don't like to, in our reality, who don't like to open themselves on camera and see how effective classes online could be, you know.
Yeah.
And I do have a group of teachers, and they do have the same kind, let's say, sort of complaint. They do show themselves on camera, but students don't. They don't like it. They bring excuses like my camera is broken, and this is something we are trying to solve in the long run, because I know it is kind of hard to make them in order to make our teaching not only effective by the use of technology, which is something my colleagues have been struggling all these months, because it was a change overnight.
Right.
We were supposed to attend classes on the 15th of March, and then suddenly we came through this pandemic, and then we had to change our chips.
Right.
And we have been working hard to teaching with technology, but we do not get this reciprocity from them in terms of making our teaching more effective. And this is something we keep on working on and see what results we may have in the long run.
Okay. Thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate it. Your phone's kind of breaking up a little bit, so I hope you can join us as you go forward. User one, would you like to introduce yourself to the folks that are joining us today? I've got a user one on the screen. How about Kay Ray? Is Kay there? Kay, do you want to introduce yourself? And I'm not sure that you connected to audio. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Oh, there you are, Kay. Are you there? Would you like to say hello to folks that are joining us today and tell us why you're here? All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to talk first and foremost about what Norman had talked about, as well as what Hamas was mentioning in terms of some of the challenges that we're facing. And I think what Norman said is absolutely critical. And I kind of heard it in what Jennifer was saying, as well as what Jill was saying, is that there is a big push from administration on down that we try to recreate school online. And what that's creating right now is some real significant difficulties in terms of kids' ability not only to pay attention for an extended period of time and to participate, but also it also opens them up to those of us that have kids who are in these grades in the middle years and even prior to that. Not so much with the elementary kids; they're pretty excited about it, but I think a lot of it is that we really don't understand how nerve-wracking it is to have a camera into the window of my home. So if I'm online and I'm requiring kids to be online and so forth, and I live in a home that, doesn't have everything that other people's homes have, or the wherever I'm sitting, the backdrop kind of reveals the inside of who I am. This is very, very difficult for students to do, is to allow the other kids, whether 20 or 25 other kids, including the teachers, into their life. These could be kids who come from very difficult backgrounds, oftentimes who mask their troubles by being somewhat a lot of bravado when they come to school and they act like they've got everything together. But if you're sitting in front of flowered paper, wallpaper, or you've got kids running around in the background, it's hard to be the tough guy, or it's hard to be the fancy kid, because this is really much more intimidating when you allow someone into your room. So what we're seeing more and more are the dark screens, and you're seeing students not wanting to turn on. Some of them aren't turning on for reasons of connectivity. Jennifer mentioned that today, that she was saying that her kids were working at home too, and that there was some connectivity problems. And so you may be in a situation in Bowie, Maryland, or in Peru, where the kids are just barely able to even participate, let alone have their camera on the entire time. And so there's a lot of technical reasons why, but I think more than anything, as a school counselor, I come at this from the perspective of, this is really, really it's intimidating, and it's very intruding for a lot of kids. And so I think we have to figure out ways to do it more effectively. Some of the things that we'll talk about today can help do that, to bring that stuff up. And as I said, I really would appreciate it as we go forward. If you have a comment, or if you have something that you want to share, we'll stop as we go through. Norman has a comment. I'm going to stop the share real quick. Nope, I just started the share. Let me stop it and get back to Norman. Go ahead, Norman.
One of the problems that we've had with the whole teaching and learning push that's gone on for the last few years is that all it worries about is teaching. Doesn't pay any attention to learning. We need to worry about what people are learning. People learn what they're interested in. And somehow that's what we have to make school or learning institutions be. I mean, when you think about it, schools and prisons have a lot in common. End of comment.
That's really important that you think about that, because when you think about the way that at least in the American school system was created at the turn of the 20th century, and it was a way to get kids up to speed to go to work in the Industrial Revolution. And that's when we started thinking about putting kids together by age instead of by ability. We started pushing them through there by grade, each grade, and we were just trying to get them ready to go into the working world and become a cog in the mechanical machine, which was the Industrial Revolution. Now we're coming at this in the time of the fifth the fifth revolution around the ideas and so forth of technology. And we have the ability to deal with this. We have the ability to understand better how kids learn and to be able to reach them with technology. And I think what Norman is saying is we have an opportunity now to be able to do that, whether it's how we disseminate the information or how we allow them to respond to the information, which I think is even more important, is allowing them to respond based on their interests. So you may be talking about a particular thing, but you need to teach the lesson, obviously, but how you teach that lesson, there can be multiple different ways to do that. And I think technology gives you that advantage as we begin to move forward. But thinking about the fact that the public education system in the United States was created 100, 150, 120, 130 years ago and hasn't really changed very much is a pretty, I would say, a sad commentary on the idea of education and getting into what we need to be doing. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that have changed. As I always say on the Connected Classroom, please join the conversation anytime. You can join us in the chat room. Let me know what you're thinking in the chat room, or you can raise your hand. Usually I'll see that every now and then. First thing I wanted to talk about as we begin to deal with this idea of teaching online is something that was really interesting to me, because I've been doing more and more of this with students. I'm meeting more kids online, and I know teachers are. And for a lot of us, our advocacy is for the classroom teacher and understanding the challenges that they're dealing with. And there was some really interesting ideas about how to avoid Zoom burnout. And this was something that I thought was more important for teachers than for the kids. But again, if we're talking to the kids about being online anywhere between 3 and 5 hours a day, you want to talk to them about some of this stuff. This is, I've been hearing a lot about cybersecurity and how important it is to protect kids' identities and all those kinds of things. And obviously that's important, but teaching kids how to use technology so that they're not getting burnt out by it, they're not getting overwhelmed, they're not getting tired, and teaching them how to do that is a really, really important thing to do. And I'm not sure that we got very much feedback on that when we got started in this back in March. But some of the things that you see right here, and again, I put in the chat room my email. If you want a copy of today's presentation, I'll be happy to send you the PDF. But things about like avoiding glare. I mean, that's something that in the concrete classroom, I talk about a lot with students who are on the spectrum. If they're on a desk and there's a lamp directly over their head, and it's going down onto the desk where they're writing, that glare can be very distracting, take their attention away, and it can also be very difficult for them to concentrate. Thinking about how close you are to your machines, thinking about whether or not you're far enough away, thinking about your gallery view. If we're talking about the kids who aren't coming online, maybe one of the things that we do is we adjust the gallery view so that they don't have a picture of themselves, because most of us are incredibly self-conscious of how we look. And then the other thing is just have the speaker view, so that way the students can just focus specifically on what they're talking about and so forth. And there are other ways to find out if they're paying attention and what they're doing, other than being in their face the entire time. Obviously the mute button, I do it in all of my Zoom classes. I had my son and daughter, who are 5 and 4, last spring. Their teacher tried to do some stuff online with the other 15 kids in their class, and it was just complete cacophony. And for whatever reason, that teacher never thought to use the mute button and to try and kind of calm it down. Limit the background distractions. A lot of us think about that, whether it's in our classroom or wherever we are, about really kind of decorating it and making it lively and making it exciting. Zoom offers a green screen backdrop. I use it occasionally with some of my kids, but I usually use something that's either just kind of a static scene or something that's very, that doesn't take a lot of attention, not a lot of bright colors. Those are things that distract students. Students can get very easily distracted when they're listening constantly. And these are some ways that we can try to limit those distractions. Other things we can do for ourselves, other things we can talk to our kids about. These are brain breaks we can take during our activities. Things like stretching, working our shoulders. If we're sitting in our chair all day, my wife does this, she works on social media, and she's always complaining that her back hurts and her neck hurts, and I'll see her over her laptop computer for hours at a time like this, never thinking just to kind of stretch things out, thinking about moving our hands. We used to talk about carpal tunnel. I don't know if we do it anymore, but that we're working our hands and our forearms, using our fingers, interlacing our fingers behind our head to stretch our shoulders and our neck. The eyes, the 20/20 rule. I think this is one of the most important rules that you could possibly introduce to your students, thinking about every 20 minutes, and you can just do it in the midst of, Jill was saying a 45-minute online. At the 20-minute mark and at the 40-minute mark, we stop for a second and we look at something 20 feet away from us for 20 seconds, and we try to get our eye attention. Maybe you can't see 20 feet in the room that you're in, but get your eyes away from the screen every 20 minutes and look at something else. Take a break, get it away. And also the other thing to remind people of is to blink more, because when we're looking at a screen, we only blink about half the time that we do when we're actually online. Norman's got something to add. Go ahead, Norman.
I think we're forgetting something. Except for the very young kids, and more even with them, these kids are online all the time. They don't need to be told how to be online. They know how to be online.
They don't know how to be online, Norman. I disagree with you. They know how to be physically online, but they don't know how to protect themselves against long-term exposure to online. And whether it's just thinking about the reality of the neck thing, a lot of chronic illnesses and people in the 20s and 30s that have to do with looking at a phone, they know how to be online, but they don't know how to do it effectively. That's like saying cybersecurity is not important. Even though kids are online all the time, they don't know the difference between what's safe and what's not safe online. So I don't agree with you there. They need to be taught how to do this effectively as we move into this generation. Teddy, you had something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys, but it really depends on the individual. A lot of students who are tech savvy or who use social media a lot, you see them online. They know how to put the camera on, they know how to take selfies, they know how to engage with other people on a social media platform. The issue is academically is they make these excuses where, okay, I'm going to be doing this for a whole semester, so what can I get away with? And I'm not a teacher, but for teachers who know certain students, if a student wasn't really active in class or wasn't showing up to classes or was absent, and the same thing is now being applied, with the remote learning, what difference does it make? It's still the same student and they still have the same habits. So there has to be some sort of etiquette when it comes to online learning, and teachers shouldn't be responsible for that. I think that should be on the parents and should be on the school administration to tell the students that you have to be more active, more engaging, because schools do count participation as part of the grades when your final grade does come.
Right. And I also want to remember, and I appreciate what Norman's saying, but I think one of the things that, one of the biggest misunderstandings that I think about in education is that kids come to school with the social skills they need to succeed. And as a counselor over the last 20 years, I don't find that to be true at all. We just assume that these kids learn these. And the kinds of things that I'm talking about as we tell teachers to do when they're teaching social emotional learning in their classroom, these are things that we can model that can help students to understand what they need to be doing, getting up and moving around, taking a chance, during a Zoom session, just to stand up and move around, talking to our kids about getting outside. A lot of these kids aren't doing this stuff. And just because they're online, they may not be doing it in a healthy manner. So I appreciate and I agree that they're digital natives and that they have a lot more ability in terms of how they manipulate the industry than we do. But in terms of using it effectively and using it as a teaching tool, I think there's a lot that we can do and a lot that we can model with teachers, as teachers, as educators, to be able to help kids to understand how to use it effectively. My kids enjoy, we let them watch an hour of TV every day. And if we let them, my kids would be this close to the television screen. And it's not that they don't understand the TV. It's not that they don't know how to watch it. It's just they don't understand how negative it is to be that close to a screen for an extended period of time. And as a parent, I need to model that, and I need to remind them on a regular basis to get back at least 10 to 12 feet away from the television so that it's not a strain on their eyes. So a lot of this stuff, we assume these kids know this, and it's one of the reasons that we don't talk as much as we should about some of the things that are really, really important right now, because we just assume that kids know it. And I think that assumption is really dangerous. It's dangerous for us, and it's dangerous for the ideas that we're talking about going forward. So I want to stop the share. I wonder if Jennifer's there as a counselor, if she wanted to jump in. I don't know if she's still there or probably working with her kids. Jennifer, do you have any feedback on that in terms of sharing some of these ideas with students?
Sure. I certainly can understand both perspectives. And, when I look at it, I was a psychologist before I was a counselor. So I really look at it as, and being helpful to teachers to take a look at, is it a skill deficit or is it a performance deficit? I think that we assume because kids use screens so often that they're just not engaging the way that we want them to because they're choosing not to. But I really, that really speaks to what you just spoke about, in that I think they don't know when they're using social media, they're not necessarily taking those breaks. They're not giving themselves time to, to stretch, to take a brain break, to move their eyes away from screens. I have, an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they need reminders to make sure that they're doing those things. And we've incorporated that into some of our SEL lessons at the start of the school year. We're 3 weeks into school. but it's something I feel like teachers could be reminding students of daily or posting in their Google Classrooms daily.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Norman.
To your point about the screens, if you go to, well, we can't right now, but when we went to movie theaters to see movies, what seats were empty? The front rows. You only went to sit in the front row if they were the only seats available. And these were kids. They know these things. What we have to do, kids don't like classrooms. When are we going to understand that? They don't like sitting in rows. They don't like sitting in circles.
Well, to your point, a to your point, a theater is set up exactly theater style. You're set up just like a classroom. So they like sitting in a theater and watching a movie. They don't have any problem with that. I don't think it's the classroom as much as it is what's being offered to them. It's not interesting to them.
Okay,
They're not. That goes back to your original point.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. In a theater, there's something interesting on the screen. In my classroom, I would get in trouble all the time because I said, take out your cell phones. We're going to figure out how to use these.
Right.
And we had some success. No exam should ever be taken without a cell phone in hand.
Yeah, the access of information is not learning. That's absolutely the wrong definition of learning. And I agree with you 100% that it should be something that is more about the being able to take the information that we're able to acquire from online resources or from a cell phone, and then be able to use those in an effective way to collaborate and to communicate and to be able to share that information in a way that not only is something that's beneficial to others, but it's something that we enjoy doing. And we're not currently doing that right now. And I think I agree with you 100%. Yeah, Norman.
How many people are familiar with Beowulf? It's a great story. The movie's much better for these kids.
Okay, but I don't think we're going to sit down and put kids in a movie theater for 8 hours a day and assume that that's going to be the kind of learning that they want.
That's not what I'm saying. How many people are in book clubs? And you all read a book and you talk about it. It's way different than what we did. Somebody here said they were an English teacher. It's way different than what we do in the classroom.
Yeah, I agree.
I would get all kinds of grief because I wasn't the best with lesson plans. And the department chair would say, well, where's your lesson plan? How can I make a lesson plan until I know if the kids did anything at home?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anyway, I've talked enough. I'm sorry. Somebody fight with me. I know there's some of you seething out there. The only way we're going to make progress is if we clash and then go have a beer afterwards.
That's right. Well, I hope you'll continue because I appreciate it. We're going to try to push through because we have another meeting at 4. And so I'm going to try to get through the rest of the screen share. And I agree with what you're saying. But I also, at this point, I think that, you know, thinking that some of these things aren't important is one of the reasons that we just, you know, we forget about it. And certain types of things work for certain kids. And that's the problem that we have now, whether it's in the United States with 400 million people or in a classroom with 35 kids, certain things are going to work for certain kids. But not everything is going to work for all kids. And so the ability to try to manipulate some of this stuff and to be able to do some things to try to connect with those kids who are harder to connect with is really important. And I think as educators, we obviously don't want to go away from what works for us, but we also want to incorporate some new things in this new reality to make sure that we're connecting with all of those kids, and especially in the virtual reality because it's new for them. Some things I wanted to share with you today, some opening and closing routines, really important. I always talk about the first 5 and last 5, the morning meeting, and the way that we end the day. Again, this PowerPoint is available to you if you'd like to use it. But these are some ways that we can try to get kids drawn in. If we can start using some of these things as ways to open up our classrooms instead of just jumping right in the morning and thinking that the kids are going to be engaged, we can use these kinds of opening ideas and ways of doing this to draw the kids in and to get them interested in feeling comfortable in the classroom. I'm not going to go through this because I don't want to read to you. That's not why I'm here. But there's some ideas on here that are really, really positive, both for the face-to-face and also for the remote learning routine, where we can use some of these things as a way of encouraging kids to participate. We have to now figure out a way, because back to Norman's point, these kids have no problem communicating constantly, either through email or text or video chats with their friends when they're talking about things that they're interested in. We have to draw them in now. We've got to bring them in. And some of these things that are listed here are ways to do that. The take a stand one, I think, is really important. I think Norman probably would have loved this one in his class, where you kind of give the kids a thing saying, you know, you firmly agree, you agree a little bit, you don't agree, or you completely disagree, and you have kids take a stand. And we're going to talk about this in remote breakout groups, and have them start to develop a sense of what their sensibilities are, and to talk and to debate with each other using breakout rooms, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. This is another way you can get kids in smaller groups to participate with you and to talk with you. The closing routines, the same kinds of things, where you're talking to them, giving them challenge, giving them an exit card, finding out where they're at. Like Norman said, it's hard to set up a lesson plan until you know where the kids are or what they did last night. You know, this kind of learning environment gives you a real opportunity you may be able to get the homework in advance, you may be able to get a sense of that, but exit cards are also a good way to kind of find out how the learning went during that day. Ways to make it more fun. There's things that we used to do in the concrete classroom we can still do in the virtual classroom. The one that I really like, Bitmojis, I'm using that a lot in my daily videos that I send out to kids. I use Bitmojis. I created a Bitmoji of myself, and kids are really responding to it. So obviously the brain breaks, using humor, things like that we can talk about. And this again is how using the breakout rooms. One of the best ways to get kids engaged online is to make the group as small as you can. And then you can jump around just like you would in your classroom, whether you had 4 kids, their desks together, and then you introduce the lesson to them, and then you put them into smaller groups. Gives them an opportunity to it's a much smaller sample size, therefore it's much less intimidating to them. And so you're setting them up and explaining to them that you're trying to bring them in. You set them up as a way of being able to, you know, find out what's going on with smaller groups of kids. You can spend a little extra time if you set them up based on, you know, what their particular strengths are. This is a good way if you see kids who really didn't, you know, who really got behind during the closure and over the summer. You can kind of group those kids together, spend a little bit more time with your stronger kids. You can allow them to kind of work together and move at their own pace. Here are some of the ideas when you're using the breakout rooms. Norman talked about a book reading club. This is a great way to do it. Jigsaw is another thing. You have kids take a page, maybe 3 or 4 kids in a group. They each take a page of a longer book like Beowulf. And each kid, their group's responsibility is just to read that page and talk about them amongst themselves. The 4-corner debate, that's the same thing, where they're taking you know, a stand on a particular issue. A lot of kids want to talk right now about riots. A lot of kids want to talk right now about the fires. A lot of kids want to talk right now about the election. There's plenty of things to talk about, and great ways to get kids invested. Get them talking about what they're interested in, and get them talking about that. And as Norman said before, that's the way to get them, you know, doing things that they want to do. Give them a choice board, set up sharing sessions, things like that, literary circles, let them pick a book and work on it. They can do different things together. These are all great ideas. And the last thing, one of the last things I want to share with you is also the virtual office hour. There's a lot of challenges why students don't want to talk to you in virtual office hours, and there's reasons why they don't. So then what we have to do is sell the virtual office, and we have to rebrand it. You know, it's Rusty's morning meeting, or it's the lunch and learn, or it's Norman's book club, or it's you know, Teddy's Thursday talking group, or whatever it happens to be. But when we do that, we're able to get kids more interested in, and then we put them into small groups. We can bring them in twos and threes instead of just by themselves, which is really intimidating. And then we talk about it all the time. Hey, if you've got more questions, you can visit me in the virtual office hours. If you have something you want to share with me offline, you can visit me in the virtual office hours. We need to sell this part of it too, because this is a great way to connect with kids and to get back to where we need to be right now, which is really working hard to do that. So we're coming up on the 45-minute mark, which is usually where we like to end the show each day. Does anybody have any final comments they want to share? I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation today. Norman?
One thing I want, you see this happen every day in class, or actually in school, when class isn't going on. Listen to what the students talk about. They are as fluent. Monday after Sunday football, listen to how they talk about what happened the day before. Why can't they write like that? Why do we have to study Beowulf? Why can't we study Tom Brady's comeback? They're interested in that. And what we need to teach is the skills, not the information. Schools don't have a, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have a monopoly on information anymore. They used to, and that's why they were valuable. They don't anymore. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Norman. I appreciate it. I hope you'll join us again. Let's see, I was going to ask Jennifer if she wanted to add anything before we leave, and Jill, I think Jill might want to say. Jennifer, do you have anything to add before we shut down for the day?
I just wanted to mention that something that I'm noticing at having been in school for the last 3 weeks is that I think teachers, and I've shared this with the teachers that I work with, is that we're finding that students who are really struggling with remote learning are students of teachers, because their parents are required to be in school, 4 or 5 days a week, and they don't have the support, as with other students as well. But it's just something to note that teachers are required to go in physically to work, which then means that their students don't have that support at home. And it's something I'm trying to help our teachers to take into consideration when kids are not joining a Zoom class on time, or when kids are not using time management effectively when they are learning remotely, is that, to recognize that there are a number of students who are home. And again, I work with 7th and 8th graders, so they're 12 and 13 and 14, whose parents think that, either the parents are either not available because they're working and not from home, or assuming that these kids have the skill set to be able to effectively engage in remote learning. And so I'm just trying to, from a social emotional standpoint, for our teachers to remind them of that, because they do think that because kids are on screen so much that they have these skills, and it's a different skill set for social connections through social media than it is for learning. So I appreciate the conversation about that.
Thanks. Are you familiar with Mindshift from KQED? I think it's KQED. It's out of California. It's called Mindshift, and I'll write it in the thing. But there was an article 2 days ago talking about the teachers that are torn between their students and their students at home, and it's talking exactly what you're talking about. So you might want to look that up. It's Mindshift, and it might be some good information for what you're sharing with your teachers. Jill, you got anything to add before we go?
I just really appreciate that I was able to join in. I really love how you shared some ideas, because I'm finding with my students that, I need to teach them how to learn online and how to take those breaks, because it is a lot of screen time. And our families are going through so many different things. We have families that are trying to kind of like make a pod together to make it work for each other because of, work in home situations and things. So just being mindful and gentle as we approach all of this new things, I think is super important, and having compassion and empathy and building those relationships is definitely going to be a key to set ourselves up for success and for students to be successful in their education.
Thank you, Jill. Teddy, you got any final comments? Anybody else have any? You can raise your hand. I'll let you in. Teddy.
Well, I just wanted to say that I definitely enjoyed today's conversation. I think moving forward, we also find ways to be more creative. I don't think anything has to change in terms of how teachers teach, but adjusting to the new normal won't be easy, but at least finding ways to talk to other professionals, other teachers, other staff, and just sharing ideas, thoughts, trying to find that middle ground which works for both the teachers and the students, something that we all have to adapt to at some point.
Yep. Thanks, Teddy. So I want to end with that too, talking about what Jill was talking about and what Norma was talking about as well, because as a trusted adult in the life of a lot of these kids, we model the skills and we need to teach what we want them to do. If we want them to do something, we need to teach them how to do it. If it's important to us, we need to teach them that's what's important to us. And we do that in every important relationship in our life. We teach people how we want to be treated. And with the online situation, it is something that they're digital natives to, but that the whole idea of doing it effectively and doing it in a way that can be sustained over the next 3, 4, 6, maybe 8 months is important for us to do. All the work that you're doing is incredibly important. You are touching the future. Hey, Norman, I'm sorry that you're not in the classroom anymore, because I'm sure that those kids would love to have you right now, and they, I'm sure, miss you from being there. I hope you'll join us again here on the virtual classroom. We're here every Wednesday, although starting next week, the Learning Revolution is going to be doing an online emergency, I think it's a 2-month-long conference for teachers and parents, just talking about tips and tools and ideas that you can use in the classroom. So I don't know if that's going to affect the show or not, but I will be here next week. I look forward to talking with you. If you have any follow-up questions, rusty@schooltoolstv.com. Thanks for all you do for the kids in your care, and I will see you next time here on the show.